and welcome to the Dits on Wrestling podcast, the Dow Pod. I am Dits, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Anthony over there. Got it wrong again. Over there. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm Anthony. But you already know who I am.
Nice.
I'm good.
Nice.
I'm good. Thanks.
Nice.
Thanks. See, because it's subtle enough that we can laugh about it right now, but I don't think overt enough that everyone's going to be like, why are they laughing? Which is exactly what I was going for. I was going to try and do it in a different tone as well, but I figured just saying it, you'd pick up on it because you're a smart guy. But I'm doing good. I am exhausted, as we talked about offline, as I always talk about in the outro when we like to do our plugs. I do a podcast of my own titled Disguise Coverage for the Cover One Sports Network, and so it's NFL related and Buffalo Bills related. And it was a big week in the NFL. There was the NFL draft, and I've been doing a lot of stuff with that really ever since February. But this week was a lot, and I'm exhausted and I'm tired, but I'm excited to be here as always. But even more so because we're talking about something on this episode that I really love.
Yes.
Which is ECW, and we're talking about their first pay-per-view ever, in addition to some other things that we'll be talking about. But I'm good, and I'm excited as always.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix-up with the formula that you've grown to know and love over the last couple of months. So obviously we talk about the week that was, with numerous topics and all that good stuff. But I mean it was on the fly during last week's episode that we said that we were going to do this. So really, the main event of the episode today is ECW Barely Legal 1997, which we both watched this week. I watched it for the first time. In fact, this was the first ECW I've ever actually watched outside of clips. And of course, you've already watched
One
it.
Night Stand and
One Night Stand, yes. But that was under the WWE umbrella, so it doesn't technically count.
Yeah, things under umbrellas don't count. This is an umbrella-less pod.
But yeah, we do have the week that was before we do get into that. But Anthony didn't watch any WWE this week. I didn't watch Raw, so we'll probably gloss over quite a lot of the stuff. We don't even have a question of the week.
It would be my question of the week, right?
Yes.
It would be. I can have a question of the week.
I mean, if you've got a question of the week, I mean, let's not waste any time. If you've got a question, let's dive in. Let's put you on the spot.
Okay. You can take any wrestler from any era and start a company with them right now. Who are you picking?
Oh.
I literally just came up with that right now, like literally on the fly. But I think it's a good one.
That is a very good one.
Again, in today's day and age. Because granted, like if you wanted to be like, oh, like if I'm starting a company in the 80s, like I'll start it with Hulk Hogan because like I know that works. But you're starting them right now, so it can be anyone from any time. So you got to like factor that in. So if you picked some character like Hulk Hogan, who's this huge, say your prayers and eat your vitamins and America, everybody might hate him.
I'm going with Kurt Angle.
I knew you were going to pick Kurt Angle. Good choice.
I think Kurt Angle's got it down because he can bring the comedy, he can bring the entertainment value, which brings a lot of the casuals in. But for wrestling fans, it doesn't matter what era you're from. Kurt Angle's a fantastic wrestler, whether it's 100 years ago, whether it's now, whether it's 100 years into the future. Like it's like his style of wrestling will always be phenomenal. So Kurt Angle, you can build anything around Kurt Angle.
That's fair.
And fun thing about Kurt Angle, I don't know if this is true, but it came from the horse's mouth. He has something in the works with WWE. I don't know what it is, but there is something in the works. Whether that is just a documentary or whatever, I don't know what it is. Cool. But anything Kurt Angle related is a win in my book. It's a win in my book. And you know what is sad about Kurt Angle before we move on to the week that was?
His career, because he's terrible?
No. Shut up.
I've been doing it this whole time. You haven't heard it. Like, you just been saying things, and I'm like, he sucks.
It's because I've got you turned down in my headphones. So, like, if I'm talking, I can't hear you. I just automatically assumed you're just gonna put down any fucking shit I say.
Of course, yeah.
um, yeah, he obviously had the terrible end to his career, Baron Corbin, and this whole goodbye tour, which probably had one good match within it, and I think it was Chad Gable.
Mm.
But when you see him now, like, he's actually pretty jacked. And like,
Mm.
if he could be in this shape now, wrestling that goodbye tour,
Mm-hmm.
what could have been?
I'd
What?
like him to get one more like burn or yeah, one last burn or just going out on a better note. He's one of the best of all time, like especially just from an in-ring perspective. But then yeah, even like as a character, as a promo, especially when he really grasped like the comedy aspect of it. Like he was just such like he was just such a well-timed promo in so many things and the things that he said, the way that he did them, and he was such a corny heel to the point that it got him over as a face, and he was just great in a lot of ways. And even if he didn't speak, I would be completely fine with that because he's one of the best of all time in the ring.
Yeah.
He is my, people always do like, oh, you can take someone, two people from any time, or like, what's your dream match or what's your thing? My dream match, and I go back and forth like because I have a decent amount, but one of my tops that's easily up there for me, especially taking them at their prime, give me Bret Hart versus Kurt Angle.
Yes.
And oh my God, I would be in, just goodness gracious. What a hell of a match that would be. That's a cool choice with Kurt Angle.
Who would
Good
you
choice
who
with
would
them.
you go with?
Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think that translates almost to any time. The guy who kicks ass and takes names, and he was actually he was a much better wrestler than he gets credit for, especially before the injuries.
Yeah.
But I think it takes Stone Cold with his look and the music and his attitude and his ability. I think he could work, and again with his in-ring ability as well, combined with his promo skills and his intensity. I think he works in whatever era you put him in, and yeah, I think he would. I think he would do well.
I miss those days. I really do.
I know they were so. When watching Barely Legal, I got like super nostalgic and started like watching other wrestling things and then hearing. Do you guys have the channel A&E over there?
A&E. I've
Yeah, I
heard of
forget
it.
what it stands for. They do like documentaries and bios on different things, but for the last 2 weeks, and I think it's a series. There's even more. On Sunday nights, they've been doing a wrestling documentary series on different wrestlers. So 2 weeks ago, it was the launching episode, and it was on Stone Cold Steve Austin, 2 hours worth, and it was fantastic. Last week, it was a 2-hour one on Roddy Piper, which was also fantastic. And yeah, man, you just don't get. And so obviously they were talking to Austin, and they went through his whole career from the time he first started, from the time he was in high school to the time he went through everything up until now. And they interviewed Paul Heyman and Vince McMahon and The Rock and Triple H, and just his impact on the business is one of like the greatest things. And especially at that time, like everybody was over, and you had these two megastars in The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, and yeah, that Attitude Era time was brilliant, and yeah, it came on the heels of a good EC. That was a good, man, that was a good time to be a wrestling fan in like the late 90s. ECW was coming up and was sweet, but then you had WCW and then WWF, and there was a lot to go for and a lot to look towards. And now it was can't miss. And now we have, Monday Night Raw, where it's painful to watch. Such is life.
I really need to see if we can get that documentary over here, or even that series, because I think it takes a lot to get the dark side of the ring over here. It takes a long time for it to surface on TV.
That starts up soon too, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, they've got some good topics this season, but the one I'm looking forward to is the plane ride from hell. Is that what they call it? Plane ride from hell?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's that one. There's also there's one that I'm looking forward to even more. I forget. Is it? Brian Pillman. I want to see the Brian Pillman one.
Yeah. That'll be a pretty good one.
Yeah, it'll be good, but for like sad reasons, because it doesn't end great. But I guess even the plane ride from hell is like interesting in its own regard. But Dark Side of the Ring is fantastic. I love wrestling documentaries in general because there's always such like even though it's not what it used to be in terms of kayfabe and everything, wrestling is one of those industries where like you don't hear a lot of like behind the scenes stories and things like that. So to hear like things of this is what was really going on, or seeing guys presented in different light and what they speak about and how they came to be and how they grew up in the business is really always interesting to me, especially because a lot of these guys now that they're making these documentaries about, or that Dark Side of the Ring is about, it was from a time in wrestling where you were supposed to make it believable. Like if you were a heel, you had to travel from city to city with other heels, and you couldn't be seen at a restaurant with a face because that would break the illusion of wrestling. So it was like a different time where they were acting their character all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just so fascinating to me. So yeah, anything I can get on that, I always try to soak up. And that documentary is on A&E. That series is pretty cool. And yeah, I haven't watched the Roddy Piper one yet. I think there's another couple. I have it set to record anytime.
I'm sure I read those 6 in the pipeline.
For the A&E series
Yeah.
thing? Oh, that's cool. I think there's also 6 for Dark Side of the Ring, maybe 5. I'm interested, yeah, but it's cool. And yeah, I went down that rabbit hole a little bit this week, and that was on the heels of Barely Legal, and yeah, it was just. And I know a lot of people always do that. Like I remember being little and hearing all the adults for everything were like, oh, back in my day, or like, oh, it was so much better, blah, blah, blah. But I genuinely think that's 1,000% correct in this regard. And you cannot argue that. If someone wanted to argue to me that like wrestling today is better than it was, New Japan is fantastic. But even like if someone wanted to be like, no, WWE, like, man, Seth Rollins is way better than Stone Cold Steve Austin, I'd punch that person in the face. And I like Seth Rollins. But like you just won't top that time ever. It's just unreal.
Yeah, I agree. I like wrestling now. We're doing a wrestling podcast.
I was gonna say,
but yeah, it pales in comparison. Like the amount of times I'll go back and watch, like the greatest pops ever.
Yes, that's awesome.
Most of them are like early noughties, late 90s, mid 90s. Maybe even some new generation stuff. But the last big pop. Well, the last big pop we've had, I would say, is the Hardys at WrestleMania a couple of years back.
Oh, good one.
But they're few and far between now, and I can't think of
don't get
anything
it like that.
since the Hardys. The may
Even
have been.
I was watching the Broken Skull sessions with Austin and Jericho. And one of the videos that they show on in the matches they talk about is, I think you'll remember this, when Jericho beat Triple H for the title, that it lasted like a week maybe, like Hebner did the fast count.
Yeah.
That one. The pop for that is insane. Jericho hits the lion salt on Triple H, and it's a quick 1, 2, 3, and the crowd goes ballistic. Like the pop is huge. And that was just a Raw. Or remember the pop when, oh, I got goosebumps thinking about it. The pop when it's Mankind versus The Rock, and DX comes out to take on the Authority, and then Austin's music hits, and he comes in the ring and hits Rock with the chair, and he puts Mankind on Rock, and you get the 1, 2, 3, and the pop is huge. Or another one to keep talking about these guys, when oh man, the goosebumps are rolling when Benoit and Jericho beat Triple H and Austin for the tag titles when they're in the 2-man power trip run.
Such a good match.
Like. Such a good match. That's the match where Triple H tears his quad and still powers through.
Yeah.
Like, the pops there are just... that's a rabbit hole I go down, like, at least once a month, where I'll just go on YouTube or, like, look up matches that I know have big pops, or people will put lists together and, like, oh, the top, 50 pops of all time in wrestling. I'm like, okay, I'll go there for that pop. Like, it makes... The crowd atmosphere for so many things are great. You know what I was doing? What's a really great pop? It's not wrestling related. You've seen the Avengers movies.
Yes.
I go back. There's that video on Twitter of the live reaction of everybody in the theater when the hammer gets picked up and it hits Thanos, and then it comes back into shot and you see Captain America catch it and he turns. Like, there's a video of it on Twitter of everybody, like someone recorded it in the theater, and everybody in the crowd like loses their mind. Like, they pop so hard. Because it's so cool. Like, you see the hammer pick up and everybody's like, oh, like you can hear everybody like gasping, and then it hits Thanos and it comes back, and then just the wild cheer that you hear when Captain America turns and he has the hammer. Like, crowd pops are awesome, and you get to see that in wrestling so much. They're great anytime. Even in like I love watching like soccer goals in like the 90th minute for like home teams and stuff when the crowd loses their mind because something amazing happened. Oh, it's a great one, and you'll appreciate this one. The David Beckham free kick goal against Greece.
Ah, yeah.
Oh God! And the crowd, and like that moment was huge. The crowd knew they needed it, and the fact that it was Beckham on the heels of the last World Cup where he got the red card and everybody was upset. So like, there's so much emotion and so much intensity, and he hits that goal, and everybody goes bonkers. Like, crowd pops are awesome, and especially in like wrestling, because you get them so much because you can script it, you can create it, and we don't get those pops nowadays because, well, one, there's no crowds, but two, everything kind of sucks, at least in WWE. Not to be pessimistic or negative or things like that.
I'd say yeah, mostly, rather than the minority of stuff.
I think the last great crowd pop I heard in wrestling is when Moxley debuted in AEW.
Ah, and you were there.
Yeah, I was there. That's probably the last like big pop. But if we were to do a list right now, like 10 biggest wrestling pops, I think most of them are all coming from the 90s, maybe some into like the 2000s ish a little later. I know the one big pop of when Dolph Ziggler cashes in.
Yeah, that's a big
in
one.
like 2013 or something like that. Like, that's a huge pop, so maybe like that makes it on the list. But other than that, I don't think there's really anything from like modern day like wrestling, especially from a WWE standpoint. I don't think it's happening.
Fun fact about Little Dits: that David Beckham free kick against Greece. I thought it was scripted. I was in the middle of my peak as a wrestling fan as a kid.
Yeah.
And just the nature of it, I was like, that can't be legit. Like, there's no way. I mean, the storytelling here is phenomenal. Like, David Beckham has just scored a free kick in the last minute. Come on. And they're now going...
Unreal.
They're going to the tournament off the back of that. I was like, that's
so
not fun.
much.
That's not real. I legit thought football was scripted.
That's awesome. Well, like, you could make a case for that, especially as a little kid. Like, to add in I feel like all the people who are like, I came here for wrestling. Why are you guys talking about like soccer?
But it's linked. It is linked.
Yeah, that is true. It is linked. Like, everybody was still mad at Beckham, right, for getting red carded the last World Cup, and people were like, oh, if Beckham doesn't get red carded, like, who knows what happens? He shouldn't have kicked that dude. Like, all these problems, this and that. And that was young David Beckham. And then now we're in this world, like, trying to get to this World Cup. He's wearing the captain's armband. It's close. I think it's like the 88th, 89th minute, or maybe it's right into extra time. And yeah, they literally say it on the broadcast, like, if Beckham scores, like, this will, for all intents and purposes, send England to the World Cup. And he buries it, especially like doing the thing that, like, that was also at the time too, where like everything was like, the whole bend it like Beckham craze was in there, and his ability on free kicks and corners and what he could do and his creation ability. Oh, dude, and he scores and just goes running to the corner with his arms like popped open wide, and like England's in the all white kits, and he's got the crowd like, and before he scores, no noise. Everybody's just silent on pins and needles, hoping that he's gonna bury it, and then he buries it. Oh, it's
beautiful.
It is beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
You know what also is a great pop? You won't like this one. The Man City Aguero goal that gives them the title. That's one of the best pops ever. And it also has that great Aguero. Oh, that's a great one. Aguero. That's a great pop. The crowd loses. Oh man,
makes me
good
sad.
Times. Yeah, it would make you sad.
Makes me sad.
As a United
fan. Yeah, welcome to Dits on Football.
That could be a good one. The DOF pod.
We already have a football podcast on Project Dits, so we'll leave the boys on plus added time to their own devices, because they're very, very good at what they do, and we'll leave them to it. We'll focus on the wrestling. So this week, neither of us watched Raw. I don't really know what happened on Raw, truth be told.
I'm thinking if Randy Orton and Matt Riddle teamed.
Yeah.
Well, I guess just Riddle. That's what he's named. Yep, they're called RK Bro.
Nice.
Clever. Yeah, I'll say that's really good. Other than that, I don't really know. I tell you what also made me upset. Like, what also made me upset with Raw, I think after we did Mania, I think I saw a thing or read the report that, like, the whole Fiend, Randy Orton, Alexa Bliss storyline, like, got changed last minute and got scrapped and changed, and, like, they weren't happy about it. And then I was like, that makes sense because it didn't make any sense. And then I was like, and yeah, I don't think I feel like maybe I put on Raw for a minute and then just faded out into. I think Drew McIntyre won a thing again
Yeah, he's got
in the
something
main
going on
event.
with Braun or.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, they keep losing to
Uh,
Dijakovic and whatever the other dude is, but it kind of
Madden?
sucks. Yeah, is he Mace? I think he's Mace.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, T-Bar and Mace.
But their masks are off now, and now they're just painting their faces.
Yeah, Ascension 2.0.
It's just not great. But yeah, there's your Raw recap.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah,
if anyone wants to pipe up in the comments of the episode on Twitter or on here on YouTube, by all means do so and let us know what happened, because we don't have a fucking clue. And I usually I'll always go back and watch. If I miss a Raw or a SmackDown or any wrestling show, I will always go and watch the highlights. I've been doing it for AEW for the last 3 or 4 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it this week,
Nice.
but the last 3 or 4, just because of timing, I would go on YouTube and look at the highlights. Nice and quick, but it keeps me up to speed with everything that's going on. Didn't do that with Raw this week, or last week actually, for that matter. Not interested.
No, nor am I.
Not interested. But on the flip side,
not
and as has always been not always been the case, but has been the case for such a long time now, SmackDown was a good show.
Yeah.
Shock horror.
No, I usually I didn't see it, but I expect good things from them.
Yeah, I mean, really, I guess the big thing of note coming out of SmackDown is the Roman Reigns Daniel Bryan match, which was very, very good.
What did they wrestle for the belt?
They did.
Roman Reigns won.
He did.
What does that mean for Shock?
So Daniel Bryan can no longer appear on SmackDown. So I would say he's probably going to take a few weeks off, and then the boring thing would be to go to Raw.
Yeah, that would suck.
And that makes me sad because I do like Daniel Bryan, and see him on a car crash of a show.
Yeah, that would not be good. But maybe he makes it a little better. He is fantastic.
That's true. That is true.
How did Roman win dirty, or did he win clean?
He won clean.
Interesting. That's cool.
I'm trying to think. Did he? Yeah, because Daniel Bryan worked on his. It was actually really cool finish. I really liked it. Daniel Bryan was. I got goosebumps. I just like good wrestling. Yeah. Bryan was working on his on Roman's arm throughout the match, and then towards the back end he hit a running knee into Roman's arm as well. I think it was a couple of kicks. He managed to dodge a Superman punch into another kick on the arm. So basically just working. Roman hit a spear. Daniel Bryan kicked out. And then the finish. So he'd already attempted the guillotine once, and Daniel Bryan got out. But there was like a bit of wrestling, and then he went for the guillotine again. But he went with it with his bad arm. But then like switched over to his good arm, like literally just a seamless transition, just on the fly. It was just like, that's very, very clever. And then because obviously he had all the power in that arm,
got him.
Ow.
Cool.
It's very, very good.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch it.
It was good, and it had a good post match end as well. He went to hit Bryan with a concerto, and Cesaro came out to make the save, which was good to see, which means Cesaro's still in the picture, as we expected anyway. But then Jey Uso, who didn't interfere during the match itself, as far as I'm aware, made the save, then locked Cesaro into the ropes, like when they wrap it around the arm. He's there, and then Reigns, bang, concerto on Bryan. It was a good ending.
Nice.
It was a good ending to SmackDown.
So he'll probably take some time off for as he got hit with a concerto. He's hurt. Blah 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 blah. And then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it was
Interesting.
good.
That's a really cool end. I'm gonna have to watch it.
It was good. And I mentioned it on Twitter this week. Raw promoted 2 6-man tags.
Mm.
I'm not a fan of 6-man tags at all.
Mm.
Whereas SmackDown promoted the Universal title match, Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns money match, with a stipulation on top of it: Daniel Bryan leaves SmackDown if he loses.
Night and day. A pay-per-view main event.
Night and day.
Shocking. Shock horror.
Shock horror. But that was SmackDown was good. SmackDown was good. NXT was decent. But I genuinely don't remember any of it. I remember Cameron Grimes. I remember that. Dude, he was buying a watch from a shop, and then it was like a couple of grand, and then Ted DiBiase came in it's like, well, like doing his Ted DiBiase laugh. It was like his watch is like $1 million.
Yeah.
And Cameron Grimes was like, wow, Ted DiBiase, doing the Cameron Grimes shtick. You
love him.
I fucking love Cameron Grimes.
He's your boy.
I don't think many people can tolerate him, but fuck me, this gimmick as well is just it's literally money. It's amazing.
Oh, it literally is. I don't think there's anyone like. Find me 10 people in the world who stan him as hard as you do. Like, I don't know if you can. Like, not even in like the South of like America, where his like character originated from and all that. Like, I just don't think anybody's banging for him that hard like you are. Yeah. I mean, you picked him second in our draft last year. It's just wild.
He's amazing.
Man.
Dude. Cameron Grimes. Oh. Cameron Grimes. Oh, I love him. AEW. We had more run-ins this week. We discussed this last week. We had more run-ins this week. Again, I don't really remember much from AEW, despite the fact that I watched it today. I remember the parlay was decent. So it had some good back and forths in that.
Jericho had a great ending for that. A lot of great lines.
He did. I could watch Jericho and MGF just promo each other
promo off
for like 2 hours. I'd just base a show off that. I'd love it. Because there is a lot of Jericho and MGF, massively so.
I could see that, yeah, for sure.
So yeah, they're going to work a singles program at some point off the back of this, I'm sure.
I could see that. I'm really interested to see Blood and Guts is next Wednesday.
Yeah.
2 rings, 2 cages, very War Games style from the WCW days. But I think there's a cell. I think it's a cell over everything, so it is like WCW War Games. It's not just an open cage. I'm very intrigued to see what happens. I think the Pinnacle wins. Yeah. But I loved what Jericho said, which was like, you're gonna have to kill us to beat us, because like we won't give in, like we won't submit. So I'm thinking what's going to happen to end it, to like I'm thinking Jericho is going to say that they give in because they're going to like handcuff him or tie him up or do something, and then I think they're going to like brutally like maim Sammy Guevara to the point that Jericho has to be like, all right, like we give in, like it's over, like fine. They're going to do something that like makes him have to do that, and then thus it'll be like, oh, the Inner Circle loves each other, versus the Pinnacle just being like ruthless to that point. But that should be good. Yeah, that was cool. Darby Allin had another good match.
10? Is that his name?
Yep.
10? Yeah.
Yep. With 10, we had some Christian Cage furthering his feud with Team Taz.
Yeah.
Taz, who we got to see on ECW Barely Legal 97. So yeah, there was some good. I mean, AEW continues, I guess, just like
it was a good show.
Cruise along at a steady pace, and every week they raise things a little or do some different things, but just doing solid things almost week in and week out at this point. Who else? Penta and Orange Cassidy had a good match. They're doing good things. The Young Bucks were on again, being jerks with their expensive shoes. They're really healing it up.
I hate Young Bucks. I hate them.
Like, even like as their characters now, or do they just you haven't been a fan in general ever?
I just don't like. I get the hype, And I can
No,
see...
you don't get the hype, because if you did, you'd like them. No, I'm just kidding.
I can see why people like them, but it's just like, ugh. They just grind on me. They really grind on me.
I don't think they're as good as they used to be, which is fair, because I think their peak in their Ring of Honor New Japan days, they were the best tag team in the world and like one of the 5 best things in wrestling at that time. They were, man, peak Young Bucks and that Bullet Club time. Oh God, that was AJ Styles Bullet Club time, man. Yeah, I don't think there was like that was such an amazing time. He debuts in New Japan. He wins the belt from Okada almost immediately. And then yeah, they're touring in the States with the American side of things, and you're just getting amazing 6-man tags where it's Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks versus like anybody and everybody, including the Kingdom at that time, which was Adam Cole's Kingdom. So it was Adam Cole and Mike Bennett and Matt Taven. So they had great 6-man tags. Oh yeah, the peak Young Bucks they were the best tag team in the world. They're still one of the best tag teams in the world. I don't know if they're
I don't dispute that. I don't dispute that. I just personally just don't like them.
That's fair.
Just don't like
fair
them.
Enough.
Fucking Young Bucks.
How do you leave this call? What button do I need to? No, but yeah, that's fair. And again, I don't dispute anyone's opinion, even if it is blasphemous and incorrect sources. But no, yeah, I've heard that like a decent amount. And at first I was always like, what? Like, how can you not like the Young Bucks? But I understand it. Like, I think some people think they're too spot based or they're too spammy with certain things, or especially people who love. I know people who don't like them just because they loved Shawn Michaels and the super kick was a finisher, and they use a super kick as just like a regular thing that they do to be like annoying and be spammy sometimes with it, and people hate it. Like,
yeah, I'm not that petty.
Some people are like, yo, they ruined Shawn Michaels' finisher. Like, a super kick should be a finisher, and they do like 8 of them. I hate them. I'm just like, oh.
Well, in a lot of cases, a punch would be a fucking finisher, but it isn't. So get over it.
If somebody punched you in the face for real, you might not get back. So.
Which and people are who's the boxer? Who's is he part? Is he part of Team Taz or is he part of the Factory?
He's in QT Marshall's squad.
Yeah, like.
Yeah, people were pissed because he did that body punch like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and they're like, how is that a finisher? The dude is a fucking boxer. If he punched me in my arm would fall off. If he punched me in the gut, I'm down. Like, why are you not understanding that? Why are you not understanding the whole premise of a legit, not just, oh, that's his character, we'll just come up with it. No, legit fucking boxer punching you in the gut.
I love that thing, the idea that, like, he's a former boxer who knows how to punch and where to punch. So if he hits you in that right spot, it's going to, like, incapacitate you. Like, I think that's a cool... And it's also, like, it's unique. I like certain things like that. I'd be okay with it if someone's finisher was, like, a headlock. If they did it the right way. Like, and they built up the move. Like, I think people get too just so nitpicky for certain things. And, yeah, I saw that a lot on Twitter, like... His finisher is like a punch. I'm just like, that's your...
Yes, it is.
That's your issue? That's your issue? Come on. Everybody was fine when John Cena was doing the STF and basically not doing anything but putting his arms to warm your ears up and not doing anything other than that. So, or even you like the people's elbow. It's just an elbow drop from a standing position. But everybody's okay with it. Well, I mean... He does it so electrifying that it hits you in your heart, and so, like, you're done. So that's okay. Hulk Hogan's finisher was a leg drop. A leg drop. Let's pump the brakes, folks. Let's count. Even the rock bottom. It's just it's not impactful. There's way more moves that hurt more than that, but people don't complain about that. Like, I think people just like to, or if like, who's somebody who. I don't know. If it was like a more credible guy that people were into already, I don't think they would care. Like, if Brian Cage, if his finisher like was a hard body punch, people would be like, well, yeah, like, because Cage is sweet and he's huge. But because it's like a newer guy, I feel like people are easy to critique and criticize and they don't buy into it.
Yeah. And speaking of Brian Cage, picking up a big win over Hangman Page.
Dominating win over Hangman Page. I mean, he attacked him early. I thought Page would come back and mount some kind of stuff, which he did a little, but it was pretty much a resounding, dominating victory for Cage, which is cool. And his finisher is the Steiner Screwdriver, which is one of my favorite moves of all time, so I'm completely fine with it.
And speaking of Steiner as well, it is the anniversary of his maths promo today, I believe, on Saturday.
I tweeted it.
When we record this.
You get normally in a match, you get two people, you got a 50% chance of winning, but I'm a freak, so you only have a 25% chance against me. Then you have a triple threat. Then you got 3 things. Yeah, that means you get a 33rd and 1/3% chance, but you don't have that. I got a 66 2/3% chance of winning, and Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me. So you had that 66 1/2 plus my 56%, you get 104. Oh, it's beautiful. I love that promo. And you see my favorite part too. You see Petey Williams trying to like not laugh. He's trying to go off camera because he's laughing. And then the chick who's interviewing him, you can see her just being like, "What?" And then the way he says he doesn't say sacrifice. He says sacker. It's sacrifice. Sacrifice. Oh God, that's one of my favorite things ever. And especially that, because Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me. It's Samoa Joe.
So good. It's so good.
His change from like what he was with the Steiners to then the Big Papa Pump character is such a drastic change for me. And I feel like people only know him as Big Papa Pump. Prior to that, like Scott Steiner brothers Scott Steiner with Rick Steiner was one of the best wrestlers of his time. Like he should have been a singles champion. He could have carried a promotion. He was obviously never like the best on the mic, but one of the most powerful, explosive, athletic dudes of all time. Like he young Scott Steiner in the 90s, especially working in Japan, working WCW. Yeah, Scott Steiner was like amazing, but I feel like people only know him for being Big Papa Pump and then obviously not being able to do math. I just love that.
I'm gonna watch that as soon as we finish
because
it's so good.
Chance and the 33 1/3, but I got 66 2/3, and everybody's just what?
Excuse
and then
me?
it all adds up to him having like 141% chance of winning at Sacrifice, and you're just like, what? Yeah. Somebody posted that it was the anniversary, and I retweeted that.
I've got a protein shaker, a Scott Steiner protein shaker with that promo kind of thing in there. It's great. I'll have to find it, and I'll show it on next week's episode. But yeah, it's great.
So I want to see it. That's amazing. Yeah, Steiner math, man.
Amazing. I love it.
Sacrifice.
But speaking of. I keep doing that. Speaking of switching gears, segues, around the time of the Steiner brothers was ECW. Funny old thing.
Also, good segue for things we've been talking about. The reason when Taz changed his character from the Tasmaniac to Taz, the reason he started wearing a singlet was because of his teaming with the Steiner brothers when they were briefly in ECW.
Oh.
That's also when he switched his so before we'll get into a little bit, but Taz's name is obviously Taz, but he started as the Tasmaniac. So literally like a Tasmanian devil type of guy. He didn't shave his head. He had hair and it was like wet and like crazy. He wore like a cheetah print type thing.
I think I've seen that, yeah.
Yep. He would like be like barefoot. And then he teamed with Sabu. So it was Sabu and the Tasmaniac. They were tag team champions. That's, part of the feud that, the reason why they hated each other going into Barely Legal 97. But then, yeah, Taz gets hurt in real life. And then when he comes back, they rebrand him. And so his singlet was inspired by the Steiners, as was his new offense where he did a ton of suplexes. That was also from working with the Steiners and incorporating their style of offense, and then obviously their wrestling singlets as well.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. Change the also connect. Well, I guess we can talk. Well, we're not going to go match by match. We're just going to kind of go over the whole thing. Yeah, or do you want to do match by match?
Yeah, because like my memory is terrible, so I can remember key things, but I wouldn't be able to go. Yeah, this is this.
But also part of
the whole thing.
then this. Part of. So again, that ECW Barely Legal 97, which we're going to talk about in a minute, So there's the Taz Sabu like grudge match because they've hated each other, and part of the reason in the storyline, but also in real life, why they didn't like each other when they were tag team champions and when they were together. Sabu, that's when Sabu left ECW. I don't know if you've ever heard this story, but basically he was supposed to work like an ECW show, and he got a better offer for the like he had already committed to ECW, and then he got a better offer like the same day for a show in Japan. So he just no-showed the ECW show and didn't show up. So Paul Heyman fired him in real life, like he was done. And then what they did for the storyline, which was really great. So Taz gets hurt, but in real life, he and Paul Heyman had a handshake agreement. So the whole time Taz is out, Paul Heyman kept paying him. Then when Taz comes back, and while he gets hurt, or when he comes back, one of the two, I don't remember, Sabu comes back. Like Paul Heyman works it out with Sabu when he comes back. So when Taz came back from injury, the reason he hated Sabu and was all this like kind of anti-ECW in his character was because he was like, yo, like I got hurt, nobody checked on me, nobody cared about me, but then you bring back Sabu who no-showed this event, like screw you, Paulie, blah blah blah, and he changed his whole character, changed his whole gimmick, and then became like Taz the badass who was angry at everyone. And all the fans knew. I mean, you saw it multiple times through Barely Legal, like they're chanting "sell out" at Rob Van Dam.
Yeah.
And the reason they're chanting "sell out" at Rob Van Dam is because he had started working some Monday Night Raws, and then he starts talking about that's why he was like it.
That makes sense.
Yep.
That makes
So
sense.
they were doing that talent share, and then he left, was gonna permanently go, and all the fans knew it. That's also why at the end when he cuts that promo and he's like, and I love to work Mondays, and everybody like boos him for it. The fans in ECW are like the all-time best. They knew everything. They knew what was up. They knew who was going where. They knew who was leaving. They like all knew that. And all the fans knew like when Sabu bounced, they knew that he legitimately no-showed the thing. So when Taz came back, the storyline was like perfect because they were like, oh, that makes sense. Like he really did no-show it. And then like, oh, you didn't pay him while he was gone, but then you brought back Sabu. Oh man, like I'm on Taz's side. Like I'd be pissed too. And it was just really good piece of storytelling to bring that little segue of Taz and the Steiners. But yeah, ECW, Barely Legal 97. As you can tell, I'm excited about it. But what did you think about it? Especially it being your first real ECW pay-per-view.
I enjoyed it.
Okay.
I did enjoy it. It was very fresh. It was very fresh to watch something so because it's very raw.
Yes.
Which I kind of dug about it, and I guess that was the whole point and the whole thing with ECW. It wasn't like, oh, it's all production and pizzazz and oh, here's some jazz hands. Like it was.
There's like 3 cameras. The entrance music isn't like great and piped in everywhere.
The audio was a bit like you could hear Matey Boy in the crowd right next to whoever's holding the hard camera. It's like whoa, you can just, it's like fucking in my ear. Like it's just so so indie. Like I liked it. I like that kind of aspect of it. I think a few bits in it, I was a bit like it's a bit. This is a bit sloppy. It's kind of just a bit. Right.
For
okay.
Sure. There were definitely some botches. Some things get botched.
But I think that, I mean, botches happen. But there was a few things that I was just like, I'm just going to put down to the fact that this is 1997 and not now. Okay. So I kind of brushed past that. And I fell asleep during Shane Douglas.
That match is horrible. It's so boring. Shane Douglas versus Pitbull and it should have been more intense because the feud was intense, and also the guy that they're talking about, like Pitbull's partner Gary Wolf, who's Pitbull #1, like Shane Douglas really did break his neck, like in real life, and then they just turned it into a storyline. Yeah, it should have been way more intense, but that match sucks. I have seen it before. I fast forwarded through it because I didn't want to watch it again.
Well, I fell asleep through it.
Yeah, not and it's a shame because like this starts especially we continue on this course, which I'd like to do, of doing an ECW pay-per-view a month in order. Shane Douglas becomes like just like the main focal point of ECW. He's a better wrestler than that we saw in Barely Legal 97, but then when he reforms the Triple Threat, going forward, and it just becomes this dominant force when it's him and Chris Candido and Bam Bam Bigelow. Also, a fun fact: the original triple threat was in ECW, mind you, such a cool stable. Shane Douglas, Dean Malenko, and Chris Benoit was the original triple threat. And then Malenko and Benoit left to WCW. Shane Douglas also left, and then he comes back. He eventually reforms the triple threat with Candido and Bigelow, and there's a whole bunch of other things. We saw Rick Rude on this pay-per-view, which is crazy. I don't think you thought you were going to see that. But yeah, that match sucks. It's definitely boring. What did you think of, I guess I kind of want to start from the top, because I got some questions for you. What did you think of the Eliminators?
Best part of the show.
Really?
Really.
Yo, how sick is that Perry Saturn triple jump where he goes running from right to left on your screen, and he jumps on the middle rope, jumps on the top, and then hits the moonsault like out of nowhere?
Amazing. Like, because I know the Eliminators are on your list. Yes. So when they came out, I was like,
the crowd pops big.
Yeah, I was like, oh, here we go. Like, I get to actually finally see these guys. I know who Perry Saturn is. What's the name of the other guy?
John Cronus,
who
is
that's it.
Like 6'4", 250, 60 pounds, who hits a 450 splash in that match.
Yeah, like both these guys, I was like, I'd never remember Perry Saturn being that athletic and agile. I never remembered that. Like, Cronus.
Yep, there you go.
It's there. It's wedged now. Cronus as well. Yeah, like as you said, hitting 450s. Like they squashed the fucking Dudleys. Like it might as well have been a squash. I was very, very, very impressed. I was like, that right there is why Anthony fucking loves them.
And the crowd, when they hit total elimination and they get the win, the crowd.
That is such a brutal finisher. Like they make it look.
Yeah, totally. And then I love every time they hit it, and then whenever they hit it, Joey Styles on commentary, total elimination. They just crush it. Yeah. I'm glad you like the Eliminators.
Yeah, I was made a fan. I think, I would say that not the match, because the match was good, but the match.
Yeah, but it's short. It's like 6-7 minutes, and the first minute and a half, the Dudleys do stuff, and then the Eliminators just kick the crap out of them for a good 6-7 minutes, and then win the titles back. It's
a very, very good showcase. I enjoyed it. I think.
What else did you like?
I enjoyed RVD Lance Storm.
RVD looks weird without the wrist tape and the spandex underneath, right? I told you it's weird.
And it was good to actually see them guys, because my only knowledge of Lance Storm and RVD is WWE. So to see them in ECW, Lance Storm with a fucking ponytail, for Christ's sake.
Right? He's got the weird little rat tail. Yeah. He hits a cool thing. I didn't remember that he did this. RVD sends Lance into the turnbuckle, and while he's running full speed, he runs and literally jumps on top from a running position and then does the moonsault off. I was like, holy hell, I didn't remember Lance Storm doing that. And that's his first, I believe that's his first match in ECW. No one's ever heard of Lance Storm.
Oh.
Before this match. That's why he's got the weird blonde rat tail on his, crew cut hair. He's weird. He's fresh out of the Hart family dungeon as a wrestler, but he looks great and he's a tremendous wrestler. But yeah, nobody in the crowd has any idea who he is. That's why none of them pop for anything he does, and anytime RVD does something, everybody's like, yeah.
It was a very, very good a good eye opener. Seeing these guys in their infancy as wrestlers, it was nice to see. And then Shane Douglas, skip through that.
Yeah,
skip through that. The International I missed, apart from the botched finish.
Yeah, it didn't work out great. But there's some really good points in there where they do. You can tell they just all of a sudden are like, screw it, let's just all go crazy. And it's a move after move after move after move after intense move after intense move, and the crowd stands up and they never sit back down. But yeah, the finish is a botch, but they recover decent. Young Taka Michinoku, who would go on to obviously WWF. Yeah, but that's a cool little intermission match, but it's good. They nail a bunch of good stuff. But yeah, the finish is kind of wonky.
Sabu Taz was pretty good. I just don't like Sabu.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I know. I don't. Whenever I've seen anything of him, like I'm impressed by what he does, but I'm not that big of a fan of Sabu. I'm not.
You'll like him the more we continue down this path.
Uh,
I can see how people cannot like him though, because from an outside perspective, he's very chaotic. A lot of what he does can come off as like sloppy or odd.
yeah.
But he's going to do some things, especially if we continue down this series. He's going to pull off some moves and do some things that are going to make you go, "Oh my God."
Okay.
Like what did he just do? Like even just wait till he hits some more triple jump moonsaults and does more, runs and jumps off a chair onto the top rope and then jumps into the crowd. He did one of them in this match. Sabu was never one of my favorites. Especially like if I'm listing like my 10 favorite ECW wrestlers of all time, he's not in my top 10, but I appreciate the hell out of him. But I like Taz way more. Taz is my dude.
Like Taz.
And he, oh God, even just hearing her reference the Taz mission, the Kata Hajime. Oh God, like at the end, and then you see the Bill Alfonso turn on Taz.
Yeah.
And that's where we get the, so here's a fun fact too. So I was already watching ECW regularly when I first saw Barely Legal, but I didn't say I like saw Barely Legal 97 in maybe like 2002, 2001. So I'd been watching ECW for regularly since like late 97, 98ish, 99, somewhere in there. I can't remember the times, but they would play it on like Friday nights at midnight where I live, like in the East Coast in like New York State and Pennsylvania. You'd get it on like random local television stations at like midnight on a Friday. And I would catch it every once in a while. And as a little kid, I was like, oh my God, these people are using chairs and barbed wire and there's blood everywhere. Like, what's going on? And I was just like enamored with it. And then I started watching it. But I watched Barely Legal 97 knowing that like it was always Sabu, Rob Van Dam, Bill Alfonso. So when Bill Alfonso comes out with Taz, I'm like, what the hell is this? I'm like, why is he with Taz? And then to see him turn on Taz and join up with Sabu and RVD at the end, oh yeah, that's a cool moment. But yeah, Taz pulls off some real nasty suplexes. He busts Sabu open early when he hits him right across the face and breaks his nose.
Yes, the cross.
Also, even just yep, he gets him with that. Even just respect for Sabu in a general regard. It doesn't happen in this match. Sabu in an ECW match, he breaks his jaw in like the first 2 minutes. And rather than stop, he has them bring him tape and he tapes his mouth so that way it won't move so he can finish, and he wrestles like a 30-minute hardcore match.
Fuck.
Like the dude is just a monster. But yeah, that's a rivalry that'll go for a long time, Taz and Sabu. And yeah, you get to see, oh man, Taz. Even at the end then when Taz is talking to give the respect to Sabu and somebody in the crowd is like, bullshit. And then Taz is like, it's not bullshit. Shut up. Have some respect. And then everybody like cheers because Taz mouthed off at the fan. Yeah, Taz is sweet. And the next pay-per-view, I'm pretty sure, is WrestlePalooza 97. And that has one of my favorite moments in wrestling ever.
Oh.
It involves, I kind of want to tell you what it is.
You can't tell me that. We're going down this ECW rabbit hole. I'm going in blind.
It's got it's got a major WWF presence and appearance on the show.
Oh.
On the pay-per-view. And it's like a super, you're gonna see it and be like, what? Like, this guy was here?
It's not Jerry, is it?
It is Jerry Lawler.
Ah, yeah. I remember him being linked with ECW at some point.
He uses super profane and crazy language, and everybody wants to. I won't explain like what goes on and why he's there, but it leads to a really awesome thing and then leads to an even more awesome thing. I think that's the next pay-per-view, WrestlePalooza.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we got some cool things on the horizon with Taz. This is when they really start pumping. After this, so obviously this was the first pay-per-view, but in this direction, starting with the first pay-per-view and on, you've got RVD, who's like the dude, but he was more like TV champ and tag team champ. He's more in the mid card. The main title scene coming from this pay-per-view as we start to move forward becomes Taz and Shane Douglas.
Nice.
And they start to become bitter enemies and start to get on a collision path, starting with WrestlePalooza 97. But yeah, Taz and Sabu was good. What'd you think of the triple threat match?
Also not a fan of Sandman.
Yeah. I like him mainly just because he didn't do it on this pay-per-view, but he comes out to Sandman by Metallica, and he's got like one of the best entrances ever, but he doesn't have it on this pay-per-view because they don't have the licensing rights to it. But yeah, that's really his whole... He just looks like some dude who lives in the neighborhood who came out with his Zubaz pants and his t-shirt and a beer and some cigarettes and...
I was impressed by Terry Funk, the fact that he was like 50,000 years old. He even did a moonsault, which I was like, holy shit.
He did 2 moonsaults.
Yeah. To be honest, like Stevie, what's his name in this? Stevie Cool? That's his name?
Stevie Richards, but his nickname is Big Stevie Cool because he's the Kevin Nash of the BWO as they mock the NWO.
Yeah. I was impressed. I was impressed by Stevie. It didn't blow me away, to be honest.
Yeah.
And
so plus Tommy Dreamer on color commentary.
I like Tommy Dreamer on commentary.
Oh, you liked it?
I liked it, yeah.
When we were talking offline, like the statements that I can like call verbatim will always hear like, oh, just Joey like knowing these guys are just killing each other and Raven gets to come in here fresh. He says that like 3 times. I'm just like, shut up, Dreamer. And like, God, I'm just, and I like Tommy Dreamer a lot. I hate him on commentary. You know what I did like though?
I don't think it was the comment, like his actual commentary. I think it was like
just like his presence.
His presence and like how he fed into like when he's talking about Terry Funk and when Raven is kicking 10 bells of shit out of him. That part of Tommy Dreamer on.
I love that that's a really cool part when Raven's pummeling Terry Funk and Joey Styles asks Tommy something and Joey is just like, and Tommy is like, hey, I don't mean to be rude, but like, I need you to stop talking to me. Like, I have to watch this. Like, please just stop talking to me. And Joey's like, oh, like, I'm okay. Like, I'm sorry. He's just like, I can't talk. Like, I just have to watch this. As Raven's like pummeling Terry Funk. And then Terry Funk blades and cuts himself open way too much.
Oh, yes.
He does it. If you rewind it, you can see it's when. This is one of I love this move from Raven because I always thought it was so clever. He sets the chair up and then does the drop toe hold into the chair, and then Funk goes down, and you see him put his left hand to his face and he blades, but he blades way too much, and it's just his whole right side of his face is just paintbrush red. And then when he's sitting there on the ground and he's like this and it's all streaming and pooling in his neck and it's just coming down like crazy, he blades hard, real hard.
I take it that's a common thing in ECW.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get, even if it's just like, damn, I wanted to pull up a photo of it. I don't think they have it. Even if it's just like accidental blood from getting hit with like something and busting yourself open the hard way. And then even if not, they blade a lot. You'll see blood. Sometimes it's gratuitous. But I mean, also, this is the promotion where the Rotten brothers fight each other in a Taipei death match. You know what a Taipei death match is?
No.
They wrap their fists in tape, and then they dip and roll their taped fist in glue, and then they dip and roll their taped fist in broken glass, and then they punch the hell out of each other and cut each other open ridiculously. So yeah.
Wow.
It's the same that did that. And also what I don't like, I hate when they bring the barbed wire out in the triple threat and it keeps you can literally see it getting caught in the flesh of like Sandman and Terry Funk, and then it slices Terry Funk real bad in his lower back, and then and then the streamer gets stuck inside the wound. Like, oh, it's just gross, and that grosses me out. And even the end, when like the end is sweet, when Terry Funk is celebrating with the title, and him and Dreamer in the crowd, but they're literally with the fans while Terry Funk is covered in blood, and he's just hugging everybody, and everybody's hugging him, and I'm like, dude, you don't want his blood on you. Like, what'd you think of the finish of Terry Funk beating Raven and like rolling him up and the crowd losing their mind?
I think if I had more context, I would have got it, but I was just like, they really went with Funk to win this thing. I was like, okay. Yeah, I was I was surprised. I was surprised.
He won at that time. Terry Funk was still like coming off the heat. Like, he was a big legend at that time. And he was known for hardcore stuff, so that's a big thing. But also, Raven is about to go to WCW in real life.
Ooh.
So they had to get the belt off him. He's on WrestlePalooza 97, but then he's gone for a long time because he goes to WCW. To be literally the same character, which is fantastic. I love Raven. He's one of my favorites. Yeah, so he leaves. So they had to get the belt off him. And then Terry Funk is like, one, he's like a transitional champion. Two, with it being their first pay-per-view, I think to try to attack like more story and more eyes, it was like that to me. Not that they're on the same level, but it's kind of like when AEW put the belt on Jericho, like for the first time.
Okay.
Like,
yeah,
you wanted like
that.
going into TV because you wanted everybody to be like, you wanted casual people to be like, oh, Chris Jericho's the champ in this new promotion. I'll watch that. It was the same thing for ECW. Like, ECW fans, as you can tell on the show, respect the hell out of Terry Funk.
Yeah.
And then common fans at the time would still be like, oh, Terry Funk is the champ of this new promotion? Okay, I'll check that out. Rather than just being like, wait, their champion is this dude who wears Zubaz and smokes cigarettes and smashes a beer can into Sandman is I hate it. I hate saying it because ECW is so much more than that, especially when you start to bring in like the Japanese wrestlers and you go in from the history of having like Malenko and Benoit and Eddie Guerrero and all these different things, like, because they have great wrestling and great storytelling, but I know they're known for the hardcore aspect. But Sandman is just like, so I don't want to say what I'm about to say, but like Sandman is just such like the imperfect embodiment of everything ECW is. Like, he looks like he just came out of his backyard and was like, all right, cool, I'll wrestle. Like, as he's smoking and just drinking beers, and he's got the beers in his pockets and he pounds both of them. And yeah, it's just like, and he really busts himself open because he's smashing cans into his forehead, and you're just like, what the hell? But what I do like in that match, the triple threat, the random times where and Sandman just he's not doing it on purpose, but he just keeps throwing weapons into the ring, and every time he does it, they hit Terry Funk in the head every single time. The ladder, the trash can, the chair, like every time. Yeah, that was good. What else? What are the thoughts you got about Barely Legal?
Well, the fact that we're willing to continue the series, I think says it all, to be honest.
Are you willing to continue it, like, just from your own volition, or is it more because like I'm jazzed about it, or is this a thing that you're like, yeah,
I'd happily explore that. Like, don't get me wrong, there is stuff that I was a bit like, okay,
Sure.
but like for the most part, I did enjoy. I enjoyed the fact that the opening match was a tornado tag. That made me happy. I don't know if is that commonplace or.
Yeah, you'll see. There's no real.
No rules.
They never explicitly say it, but it's always very much like, even if it starts out as a tag, they're very loose with like, all right, cool, you want to come in and interfere, like, do what you want, that's fine.
I like that.
Because again, it's hard to enforce rules like, oh, well, you have to do this or you have to do that, when you can pull weapons anytime you want and do anything. So yeah, that's pretty commonplace. As is the triple threat aspect, where it's elimination style, not just first one to get a pinfall wins. Triple threat. That's also, I might be wrong, No, I think ECW, like at least on like American TV or something. I remember I hear the stat, it was either that pay-per-view or there's something. They were the first ones to ever do a triple threat match. Like
Oh,
WWF had never done it until that point. WCW had never done a triple threat up until that point. There's something about that triple threat where like ECW is the pioneer of it. Because again, it's not even called a triple threat match. They call it a three-way dance. Like it's not a
yeah.
thing in wrestling. Like they don't have a name for it. Um, but yeah, so your tornado tag aspect, yeah, you'll see that a
And
lot.
I was very confused in the main event as well when they were pinning each other. I was like, why are they not breaking this up? Did they just not give a fuck? Like,
Yeah,
what's?
because it's a limit. Because it's
I
a
didn't
so one of
realize
them gets pinned.
until
Yeah,
Stevie was pinned, and then it was all like he's eliminated. It was okay, that now makes sense because Sam Manchester just like bimbling around the ring. I was, and then he's
yeah. Like, why doesn't he
helping,
care?
and like they're helping each other, and then as soon as they'll drop like Stevie, Funk will fall on him, and then Sam just like, all right, yeah, whatever, okay, you just take it, you just take it. I was like, what the fuck's going on? Yeah, but then it made sense. But no, like I'd say overall, if I was to give it a rating out of 10, I'd go for a 7.
Nice.
I'd go for a 7, which I know that sounds bad on paper, but it's not. It's really
Hmm.
not. It's a good 7. It's a good 7. Um,
That's solid. I'll take
but
that.
no, like
Speak actually.
I'm looking
Go ahead.
forward to the next one we do, which will. I mean, we'll probably aim to what we'll just do it 4 weekly as if it is an actual pay-per-view. Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Do you know the story of your boy Kurt Angle in ECW?
Yeah, so he got the offer or something, didn't he, to go, and then he went to check it out, thinking it was going to be just like a wrestling thing, and then he was on TV as well, wasn't he? Like, oh, here's
Uh-huh.
like this prospect, Kurt
Mm-hmm.
Angle. Um, I think he watched it or something. He was just like, nope, not for me.
The show that they bring him to is the one where Raven crucifies the Sandman, like literally puts him on a cross and crucifies him with like barbed wire and stuff. And Kurt Angle is a religious man and was deeply offended by this. And then also because he had been shown at the show, he was pissed because he was like, I don't want to be associated with any of that. Like, delete all footage of me. You can't show it. I don't want to be associated with it. I don't want to be anywhere near it. Yeah, he was super
Oh,
like shocked and offended. Um, yeah, so not the good night to plan a recruiting trip if you're Paul Heyman and that crew. Yes, Raven literally like strings Sandman up and like hoists him. Um, yeah, it's pretty violent and kind of crazy. But I also think it's funny then like, but you had no problem being in WWE when like Undertaker crucifies Stone Cold Steve Austin like
yeah.
kind of like 2 years later. But I mean, to each his own. But yeah, he was not.
Or Hang's
But
Big
I would
Boss Man.
imagine yeah, or literally like attempts murder. But I feel like those kind of things are more acceptable when you're in an arena with like 10,000 people versus being in a bingo hall and there's like 2,000 people and you're just like,
Yeah.
I need to get out of here right away. Like I can't be here anymore. And that arena I can't imagine, because it's packed. Like when you see it, there's a ton of people. Um, I've been to that arena. I saw Ring of Honor Final Battle. Oh, I forget what year. Oh, actually, you know what's cool? The main event of the Ring of Honor Final Battle that I went to was AJ Styles versus Jay Lethal for the Ring of Honor Championship. Jay Lethal beats AJ Styles, and it's like December 17th, 16th, and then a month later, AJ Styles debuted at the Royal Rumble. So I saw
Oh.
AJ Styles. I saw AJ Styles as this is such a cool. I don't like to name drop things, but this is a cool thing as like a wrestling fan. I saw AJ Styles' last Ring of Honor match ever in the ECW arena
That's pretty
in
cool.
Philadelphia. Yeah, it's like a super cool thing to look back on. But we had no idea at the time. Like no one knew, and AJ was just hanging out there at the merch table, like having conversations with random people. Like my buddy walked up to AJ and was just like shooting the shit with AJ Styles and like talking to him and hanging out. Like, and then a month later he debuts at the Royal Rumble. We had no idea. Um, but what I was getting to, that arena is tiny. So the fact that there's that many people jammed in, especially at that time before they had made more space.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how close everyone was to one another and how bad the heat was. just so many things. It's a tiny venue, and yeah, I can't imagine how cramped it must have been.
But it was smelly as well. Good old
Yeah,
stink in there.
it's just gross. Let it like because anytime you get a crowd of people in a tiny thing, that's gonna happen. Let alone like wrestling fans who aren't known for their hygiene practices. It's not ideal. Yeah, I can't imagine what being at at an ECW show in those times was like. Especially when even there's those spots in the triple threat match where they do the ladder spots and the ladder goes flying into the crowd when they do the seesaw slingshot stuff.
Yeah, I was
with
like,
the ladder.
fucking hell.
It goes flying, and I would be like, yo, like, you can't do that. That's a real ladder, and it's gonna hit somebody in the crowd. Like, what the hell are you doing?
You probably wear it as like a badge of honor if you got hit by a fucking ladder at an ECW show or a chair. You'd be like, yeah, that was me. That pissing, yeah, that was me.
It was me. Yo, you see that? Check out Barely Legal 97. That's where I lose my eye because I get hit with this ladder. Yeah,
Yeah.
they would wear it as a badge of honor. They're a great fan base.
They are.
Like,
I was
all the
very
chants.
impressed.
I love that when you mess up, they call it out. Like with the "you fucked up," like you fucked up. Like you're just calling RVD and sell out. They really added a lot. They were like another character in it, and it's. I'm glad you liked it. And that's a solid rating. It's only going to get more sophisticated and better from here.
Oh. I'm intrigued.
You said, oh, I like Brian, but you're like, oh, yes. Oh, yes, triple.
Burr, yes. Burr, yes.
Easier to transport.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, mate. I'm looking forward to it.
I was fearful that you were going to be like, because I've got friends of mine who like good wrestling, but because they're into they grew up in the WWE model of it, like they have a problem with like New Japan and Ring of Honor because the production isn't there. They're used to like 30 HD cameras and pyro for everyone and amazing lighting everywhere. And so like when they watch shows like this, it's like, dude, I'm sure it's good, but like I can't get past the first 7 minutes. Like they don't even have an entrance ramp. They just have like a curtain. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, like no disrespect, like it just seems bootleg. I can't get past it. So I was afraid, if you were just because they're just like playing like weird music for everyone because they can't get the the copyright licensing yet, and they're coming through a curtain and they're in a bingo hall but it gets better and more sophisticated from here. So if you were able to get through this one, it's only going to get bigger and better.
I'm happy. So that's something to look forward to, guys, going forward. Our little link with ECW pay-per-views. I'm not going to be watching the weeklies, but we will be watching the pay-per-views. So I'm excited.
Go to so the next one will be ECW. I'm going to double check right now, but it should be. Oh, I knocked over my chapstick. A little peek behind the curtain there that I have chapstick. It's Skittles chapstick.
Nice.
And it tastes delicious. I mean, like I'm not eating it, but you know what I mean.
You're that guy.
Just sitting there with chapstick, like licking it or like taking bites out of it, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm eating my chapstick."
Skittles.
Yeah, it's Skittles. Why are you not supposed to eat it?
Well,
here we go. 97. Oh, it's got the whole.
You having a look on Peacock, are you?
No, I'm looking at just I just looked up pay-per-views on Wikipedia and I thought it would give me everything, but then it's giving like the special events in between. Oh, interesting. WrestlePalooza 97 is listed as a live event. But I have it as a DVD pay-per-view.
Well, we can still watch it.
We'll see what the next event is. The next official pay-per-view that it has. Man, they had an internet pay-per-view in July of 97. At that time, you had an internet pay-per-view?
Breaking down barriers.
Their official next one is Hardcore Heaven 97 in August. But it should be WrestlePalooza in June. We're going to find this out. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. But we got all that to look forward to.
Glad you liked it.
Yeah, and it was a nice little twist
I was afraid, or were you just being like, listen, Ant, like, the Eliminators suck.
Yeah, I'm not you.
Oh, that's hurtful.
Yeah,
I
Eliminators
mean,
suck, and Sabu, well,
listen,
Sabu does suck a little bit, but
listen, it's not my fault that Drew McIntyre is terrible and Edge and Kurt Angle are terrible all as well. So, not my fault.
I will blast ECW wrestlers. You can blast my favorites. Apart from Cameron Grimes, I will not. I will not take any fucking slander.
Oh, I wouldn't blast Cameron Grimes. He's not even worth blasting. He's terrible.
Do the moon. Right. You know me. Yeah, that's us for this week. A nice little twist on the regular formula. But of course, we will be back next week with our usual, the week that was, hijinks and raw recaps, in depth raw recaps, because it's such an incredible show.
Tremendous.
But between now and then, if you want to check me out anywhere, at Project Dits is where to find me on Twitter and Instagram. Remove the @ and you can find me on YouTube and Twitch. And I'll fire it over to you, Anthony.
I'm Anthony. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro2_ANT. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, if you like the NFL or the Buffalo Bills, you can see on my sweatshirt here. If you can find me doing my own solo pod titled Disguise Coverage, part of the Cover One Sports Network. And other than that, as always, you'll find me here as the first mate on the Dow Pod every single week, held against my will. Because I signed a contract and it's ironclad and I can't get out of it.
Yep, you are fucked. You are fucked. But the listeners aren't fucked.
No.
Because they're in for their weekly treat of Anthony's goodbye message.
Thank you. I do have a goodbye message this week. Last week, we talked about some Eastern philosophy and Western and some things like that. But, and this may be a little controversial, but I don't think Northern philosophy gets talked about enough. You know, again, I don't mean to be controversial, even though I am Mr. Controversy, but, you know, you already know who I am. The hemispheres of the world, everyone's always caught up in Eastern and Western, right? Eastern hemisphere, Western hemisphere. We love to talk about it, the West and the East. But what about the North? That was what I asked myself this past week when I dove into a lot of studies to figure out this goodbye message. And so I'm not going to say exactly where it came from because I'm still, you know, getting my bearings right after diving into this whole Northern thing, because it's a change, man. I'm not really used to it. But I took some notes on some things and some really great things, and I thought they were smart, and I wanted to read them to you guys tonight. It's a bit longer than the traditional Eastern things that I've been talking about for the last month or so, but of course, you guys know that. Like everything with Northern, you know, of course, longer. You guys know that. You're smart. Okay. So, goodbye.